there, it's Paulie here. Yay! So, I've been waiting a long time to see the game Dragonbane. This is a new game out by reimaging, but it is the English translation of a game, Drakar Demona, forgive my Swedish pronunciation, that was kind of the standard role-playing game experience for the Scandinavian RPG community all through the 80s, 90s and early 2000s. It's their classic game. There is a tale, which they do fess up to, and this is the reason I always wanted to see it. Basically, the original game was a complete rip from Chaosium. What they did was they just took what are now marketed as the Magic World rules. So this is the core rule set from Chaosium that was used for things like Stormbringer, Elric, and so on. Percentile skills, the same characteristics, use of power, the whole thing. They just ripped it and they ran with it. And at the time, Chaosium had sort of said, well, you've kind of made your own setting and your own whatever, so look, just don't publish it in English. But in this latter day, they've come to an arrangement and have brought it out again. Now, I had just always wanted to see this little slice of history. Plus, it sounded fun, and they've got ducks in as a race. And oh my god, I love ducks! I absolutely adore ducks. So I've been hanging out for this for 40 years. So it's come out now. It's reimaging, so their production values are really, really good. So digging in, what we get is we get a giant box. So, and I love box games. So giant box, beautiful artwork. The nod to Stormbringer is on there, but exquisite artwork. In this mighty box, there's a cornucopia of goodies. So we've got the rules, starring a duck. So, that gets my vote. But we've also got a ton of other cool stuff. There's a considerable adventure folio in here. This is a stream of different adventures that all make one campaign. So this thing comes with an entire campaign. That campaign, by the way, has some really neat stuff. If you paid for the cool end of the Kickstarter, there are full-on cloth maps that go with the whole setting. So they have done considerable maps, and also part of the Kickstarter. I mean, it just depends what you ordered, but there were also very cool things like we've got an excellent little judge's shield in it, which has the essential gaming information on the inside. And once again, it's got our cool dragon on it to Bane. There's also a solo adventure incorporated in the rules, which is fantastic. Great to just sort of, get there and go. There's also a ton of these rather cool little standees, which you can punch out. And they have little plastic stands for those. And some cards and dice. Green to match their lovely green theme, hooray! And dice, we've got initiative card dice, which are used in the combat system. Initiative cards, which are used in the system. Some random treasure cards for finding treasures and so on. You can just randomly put those out, and some kind of random adventure idea cards and so on as well. Free League are very, very good at doing these kind of props. They're very useful for kind of filling out your game. So, hats off to them. There's also, they put in some maps. If you want, you can play this with combat on a grid. And as such, they provided, some battle maps. You don't need to do it, thankfully. You can just play it theatre of the mind or with, sketches on the table which is great, exactly as it should be. You also get some character sheets and some how to do your characters and getting started, paper maps, etc, etc, etc. So the level of cool nernies that we've come to associate with Free League. Very good production. What's the game? Okay, so they are marketing this as Mirth and Mayhem gaming. So kind of 80s style, plunge in there and have a smash it up kind of fight, have some gags, have some laughs, you know, good, literally good old school role playing. So, you know, on that basis, cheers guys, thanks. Korean strawberry wine, not bad. So it's relatively rules light system, and it draws on their experience from their other current game systems. So in its essence, this is a D20 run system, but you're rolling low. So skills and so on have a value between, you know, 0 and whatever, 20. You're trying to roll that number or less on a D20 to succeed with the skill. So you may have to retrain any of those dice that you carefully loaded to roll 20s. They have kept the old dragons and demons theme from the original game. And they've said there are dragons and there are demons. Essentially, if you roll a 1, that's a critical hit, that's a dragon, and you get some extra effect. If you roll a 20, that's a demon, and that's a fumble equivalent. All right, so, yeah, a little thematic thing running through there. Character generation, pretty damn simple. What you're doing is you've got different kin that you can choose from, and that includes the sort of things that you've come to expect from, you know, generic high fantasy. So there's elves and there's dwarves and there's humans and so on. There's also mallards, the ducks. Yay, ducks! So the ducks are all in there, and you pick one of these kin, and again, it's all superbly illustrated all the way through. The production value on the book is just stunning. But you pick your kin, and that does give you some a special kind of aptitude that comes with that kin. But you can change that. It's got a suggestion for essentially it's a little special ability that you can tap into. So humans are down as very adaptable. You can substitute one skill for another in a role, provided the story allows you to. So instead of, for instance, pulling out some bit of ancient mythic lore that you may not have, but it's a story about swords or something, so you might say, oh, my guy really knows about swords. I've got a high sword skill, so have I heard anything about this magic sword? So yeah, you can kind of intrude another skill in to make the role rather than just a mystic lore skill. Now, a thing with all of these powers and abilities that you get, it costs you to utilize them. So they have a number of willpower points that you have to pay. Willpower is a characteristic that you roll, and so you've got to burn willpower in order to use these things. You may accumulate quite a few special abilities as the game goes on, so you're going to have to start watching that use, because even if you're not casting magic, which also uses the willpower, you are going to have to, you know, this is the currency, this is the resource that you're going to have to manage. So you pick a kin, and you roll dice. It's essentially it's the same characteristics you would expect from a Chaosium game. So strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, power, willpower, and charisma. These are 3 to 18 values. What they're saying is, I quite like it, roll 4d6 and keep the best, but you roll those and then assign that to a characteristic. Now roll another 4d6 and, you know, throw away the lowest dice, keep the 3 best, and assign that to the next characteristic. So there is a little bit of kind of play and gamesmanship in making your character. But at every single stage of this, they say, if that doesn't suit your playstyle, scrap it. So they're very, very clear on making the game yours. But you can pick mallards, you can pick wolfkin, you can pick elves. These are your basic kin. Then you pick a profession for yourself, and there's quite an array of these. There's what have we got? We've got artisans, and we've got bards, and we've got fighters, and we've got hunters, we've got knights, we've got mages, mariners, which I quite like to see, merchants. What else they have? Scholars, thieves. Now each of these has like random starting gear. You can just get some gear. Each of these has its own list of the abilities that they feel will be key. They just suggest if you want to be a thief, you might want to make sure you've got some agility. Duh. What else have we got? Yeah. So each of these professions has a list of skills. Now you're going to be picking skills for your character, but 6 of those skills must come from the profession skills. I think you've got some like 10 skills to choose, but 6 of them have to come from the list under your profession. But that's okay. So say you wanted a scholar. Obviously, the professional skills are going to be law and learning and persuasion and research and these kind of skills. But with your free skills, there's no reason why you can't put that into being a sword fighter, being an archer, spot hidden skill and those sorts of things. You can be an exploring scholar, a fighting scholar. Likewise for if you want to be a thief, but you see yourself not really as a pickpockety thief, you're more like literally a professional dungeon scout, wilderness scout. Great, well obviously you've got the spot hidden skills and so on in the professional ones, but from your free skills you might want to take some of the wilderness exploration skills and maybe sort of a wider array of weapons and these sorts of things. So fantastic, and they've got their own kind of special abilities attached to these professions as well. So you've got a couple of derived ratings and so on that you just work out, not much to it. Damage bonus, which is a bonus to the roll damage. It's quite modest compared to a Chaosium game. You're probably only going to get a D4 or a D6 if you're very strong, which is great because it could be really unbalanced when someone suddenly, I've got a D8 damage with my sword plus 2D6 for being so strong. But so you pick your skills. Now, your core character is then complete. You can just simply take the basic equipment that they've got under the characters. You roll, and there are several different choices, or you can choose at every given point. So you can get your gear. Now you also pick some weaknesses for yourself. Reason you pick the weaknesses, you get experience points if you play your weaknesses. So again, you can roll, or you can pick, or you can create something. Just talk to the umpire. So if you're kind of like very keen on the Elric idea, oh yes, I've got to take a drug to keep myself strong because I'm some kind of genetic withered mutant, and unless I take it, my strength will go. Great. And if that comes into play, someone takes your drug away, or you haven't been able to have it, or whatever, this helps you gain experience because your weaknesses come into the storytelling. But you could choose to be alcoholic, you could choose to be sort of, bad-tempered or berserk, or a kleptomaniac, or someone that's always sort of out for more glory or more treasure than everyone else, someone who's rash, someone who's overcautious, this is all in there. So very simple role-playing. So you can see it's actually kind of a very neat, simple system at its core. Now there's a nice magic system in this. You've got your a good list of spells. I've noticed that as a starting character it can be a little difficult to play a magician because you've got relatively small choice of spells. Anyone that played D&D, you're already used to that. You're far more survivable and far more useful in general than like a Dungeons and Dragons mage. because it's skill run, your skills are still contributing to the party. Metal does affect magic. Not for some reason, not metal that you carry in your backpack, so you can have a sack full of gold. You just can't wear metal against your skin or carry kind of metal weapons. But so okay, so you're going to use staves and what have you. Fair enough, and maybe not turn out in that plate armor. They've got a very simple advantage disadvantage system for rolling skills. Essentially, if for some reason you've got a advantage, roll twice and take the best. If you've got a disadvantage, roll twice and take the worst. So no charts, no tables, no having to work out minor advantages. If you're rolling contested skill, you and your opponent both roll. If one of you passes and one of you fails, obviously the one that passes wins the contest. If you both pass, then it's the one that rolled the lowest score. So, again, clear, simple. We've seen this before. Okay, so those are the positives. Your armor absorbs damage. It's a random dice roll, depending on what you've got. They've got it pretty simply broken down into like leather, reinforced leather, like studs or rings or whatever, chainmail, plate. That's really all I've done. Helmets you can add to it. You get extra for helmets, but the helmets put a disadvantage onto certain skills, like most of your perception skills. If you're wearing a helmet, they go down. So, if you're a fighter and there are scouts out looking after you, then obviously helmet's going to be a fantastic idea. If you're kind of the point man or something, maybe you want to just hang the helmet, at your belt or on top of your pack, and it only goes on when it's action time, because otherwise, you're going to get a negative on those rolls. So, little tactical choices. The weapons again are they are broken into slashing, piercing, bludgeoning, and there are some little advantages and disadvantages to using some of these. But again, it's kept fairly simple. Your strength and dexterity characteristics are going to govern how big a weapon you can use. So again, simple, clear, easy to use, easy to just get playing. We're not looking at 3 pages of glaive gizam glaive voj. It's they've given some things like spears reach, so these things will always kind of hit first in the beginning of an encounter if you've got reach. Some things, two-handed swords obviously do a butt ton of damage, but you can't use the shield. So now here's the funny bit. Bafflingly, they do have that contested roll system for skill versus skill. It's not used in combat. I don't know why, and it is a bit of a sticking point for me. It's like it almost makes it like I can't understand the decision. Now, what you do is we've got a little deck of numbered cards. When you're in combat, those are shuffled. Everyone pulls a card. It's got a number on it. Lowest number goes first in the initiative round. So whoever's got number 1 moves first. Number 2 moves second, etc. You can move and do an action or any combination thereof. So I can act and move and act, move half my move or a portion of my move, do an action and then move on. Actions are things like attacking or parrying or casting a spell or healing someone. Minor things like just talking or shouting a message or whatever, they're free. But that's the thing. That's the weird thing. In my turn, I can run up and I can snot someone with my sword. But if I do that, I have no ability to defend myself later in the turn. So someone can then just run up to me and go, very computer gamey. It's like your skill level doesn't in any way make you harder to hit. Now, again, we've seen this. Dungeons and Dragons, which is the most popular game in the world for role-playing, just your level of skill has nothing to do with how easy you are to hit. You can be D'Artagnan, you can be, Zatoichi combined with D'Artagnan, but for some reason, you are no more or less difficult to hit than, any village idiot with a bucket over his head. Your ability to parry movement doesn't come. So, okay, so this isn't a new idea. I just personally find it a dumb idea. In your turn, you can move up, and if you want to attack someone, you just roll. If you get your sword skill or battle axe skill or what have you, you have hit. If this person has an action and wants to spend that to try and parry, they can make a skill roll against either their shield or their sword or something and try and parry it. But if they do, they lose their action. That's it. They can't hit anyone. They've used their only action in the turn defensively. All right, okay. Mazel tov, baby. As you gain experience, you can gain more of those special abilities. They are one of the main things that you will gather. There are special abilities that allow you to parry in the same turn as you attack, but that's going to cost you, and there's going to be quite a bit of adventuring before you learn that magic skill. And most of the opponents that you face won't have that. So it's a highly specialized skill for some reason that you will only pick up later on. As I said, role-playing games have run off that exact system for 40 odd years, 50 odd years. I find it an odd choice, particularly since it came from Magic World, in which defense is always active. I rolled hit with my sword, you rolled a parry with your shield or parrying weapon. It's automatic, and I can make, if multiple people attack me, multiple uses of my skill, increase the difficulty. So, it just becomes harder to parry as more people attack me. So multiple attackers will wear you down. But, okay, this is how it is. So, for survival's sake, accrual of those special abilities is going to be vital to you. There's a ton of very cool skills in this, and obviously a ton of very cool heroic abilities that you can gather. Nice spell lists. Now, one of the places where this excels, they've taken a lesson in this from their other projects, like Forbidden Lands. Opponents that you fight, if they are a humanoid kind of sword or shieldy or daggery wielding thing, they fight exactly the way you do. But a monster with a capital M, a big thing, that actually has a chart. And when you fight these things, what it does when it fights, you randomize what it does. And they do tell you should kind of fudge the roll a bit so it doesn't repeat the same actions. So fighting a monster is kind of interesting and challenging and damn dangerous because of the way you've randomized what they do. So for instance, if you're fighting a manticore, its chart might include it's going to fling darts, a storm of darts with its tail at one person, or it whips around flinging darts wildly. Everyone has to make a dexterity throw to see if they can dodge out of the way of one that's coming at them. It beats with its wings and gives a big roar. This is terrifying. Everyone has to, save versus fear effects, which are in here as yet another thing you can have in fear effects. Is kind of cool. Or, it runs up and tries to sort of claw and bite at someone. So, or it takes to the air and then circles around and then it's going to try plunging down on someone. So fighting a monster is quite challenging. It's not like just its hit points and just a set number of dice. These things have, wild tactics, and they've all got a flavor to them. So that's a real positive to this. Everything's got this huge flavor to it. They put a little world in here which is very simple, and again, it goes back to that lovely old dragons and demons thing. So what it's saying is that, in the far past, there were dragons and there were demons who kind of ruled the world, and there was a draconic sort of run empire, and dragons sort of represent kind of brutal law and order and non-change. They are order. The demons are chaos and mayhem and bloodshed and crazy, and it's as if they were opposing elemental forces. Anything draconic was kind of destined to come apart at the seams due to spreading chaos and greed and hatred. And anything demonic made was kind of destined to kind of fall to warfare and brutality and dragonfire. And these two forces eventually kind of fought each other into nigh oblivion and vanished, but the remains of these old civilizations are there under the ground, so you can, dig around and find them. But one day will they break forth again, and will Bold Souls be having to somehow prevent a draconic takeover or a demonic takeover of the world? Well, maybe, if you're lucky. So, very, very simple background. They're not boring that tits off you with 3,000 pages of historic background that you don't need to know. So it's very, very strong. Now the magic, by the way, it comes in different schools, which is nice. You've got a huge number of different schools to choose from. You've got there's a basic school of magic, but you also get, what do they got? They've got animism, elementalism, mentalism. So you've got a nice kind of choice of different flavors. You can, as a heroic ability, if you are a mage, you can spend a heroic ability to open up another school of magic. The spells all come in different ranks, usually just like 3 ranks, but some of them do go higher. You start off only knowing like the first rank spells, and then as you go through the game, you'll learn the butcher ones. And also, as you can pour more willpower into the spells, you can power them up. So another set of heroic abilities you may want to do, obviously, as a magician, is increase your willpower is one of the things you can do, so that you've got more mental currency to spend on zap, boom, gam, kaplam. So, look, so this is a really good game. It's beautifully produced, as I said. It's like the whole thing has this lovely kind of Brian Froudian sort of art style. It's got all the cool props that you could ever need. It's got a campaign in there, and it's a good campaign. It's a kind of beat 'em up and bashy sort of thing, but there's investigation and some intrigue, and people fooling you, and so it's quite a clever little campaign. And obviously, it's withstood the test of time. It's a robust game. So I can see, look, so this is a game that would be very easy to get new players into. It's clear and easy to make a character. You're not being snowed under with hundreds of rules and sub-rules. It's just simply roll those dice, assign those characteristics, choose a kin, choose a profession, pick your skills, pick a weakness, or roll it if you don't want to. Pick, buy your gear, or randomly roll your gear if you don't want to, and you're playing. And that kind of, it's a medievally setting, generic fantasy, Froudian kind of fun setting with ducks. So yeah, easy to create adventures for, easy to administrate, and the addition of things like the random treasure cards and some of these kind of adventure cards, which are encounters and things that you can bump into, nice little props that make things easier. This is Free League, so clearly what they're going to do is make a series of other adventures which will have more cards and more characters and more cool props. They're very good at supporting their games. Yeah, so would I play it? Yes, I would. It plays like a D&D style game with extra cool bells and whistles. It is a simple system. It's an easy system to administrate. It's very easy to make characters, but the characters come with some role-playing leads, with some flavour and some colour that actually gets you experience, as you play those weaknesses and so on. It actually gets you something. I kind of think the crowning glory of it is that addition to the monsters, so the monsters are truly fantastic. They're not just a bunch of stats where you just wade in and you're just rolling dice and then rolling dice and back and forth it goes. No, they do have sort of spectacular effects which make each one of them unique, but it also means that rather than just wading in, you may want to cook up some tactics and have a think. Otherwise you're going to get party casualties. Which, to my thought, is more adventurous. You're going to have a think about solving the problem rather than just saying, behold my magic sword, and in you go. So So a colourful world with, you know, a little bit of kind of paranoia to it. You know, the big monsters aren't something that you can just tackle by just, I've got bigger numbers than they are. This win is inevitable. So yeah, look, I think it's well worth taking a look at. Younger players are going to love it, which is obviously where this thing came from. This was in Scandinavia. This was everyone's darling back in them days when we was young, and I can see the fun in it. It's a fun game. So yeah, go out and take a look. It's up on their website. It's available. Fantastic stuff. Anyway, if you have enjoyed the reviews, by all means, like, subscribe, shout my name in the streets. I will keep going. I'm still looking at very cool games and digging stuff out for you guys, and I will keep on looking. Cheers, everyone. Keep gaming, keep rolling the dice, keep laughing. Mirth and mayhem. Yeah, not a bad trademark right there. Cheers.